It was a remote cabin nestled deep within the woods, the perfect escape from the bustle of everyday life. As I stepped across the threshold, the creak of the floorboards seemed to greet me, and a shiver ran down my spine. It was an odd sensation, as if the cabin itself were alive and watching my every move. I'd come here for a weekend getaway, seeking solitude and a break from the noise of the city. The cabin was quaint and rustic, with a warm and inviting atmosphere. Yet there was an underlying feeling of unease that I couldn't shake. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I lit a crackling fire in the stone fireplace. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows across the walls, creating an almost hypnotic effect. I settled into an old armchair, a book in hand, determined to lose myself in its pages and forget the creeping unease that had settled over me. Hours passed, and the cabin was enveloped in darkness. The wind outside rustled the trees, and every so often I thought I heard a faint whisper carried on the breeze. I brushed it off as my imagination, attributing it to the isolation and the unfamiliar sounds of the wilderness. But then the whispers grew more distinct, as if they were coming from within the cabin itself. I strained my ears, trying to make out the words, but they remained just out of reach. A jumbled chorus of voices that seemed to resonate from the very walls. Unease turned to fear as the whispers seemed to close in around me. I rose from the armchair, my heart pounding, and moved toward the window to peer outside. The moon cast an eerie glow over the clearing, but there was nothing there. Nothing but the dense forest and the distant glimmer of stars. As I turned to head back to the fireplace, a movement caught my eye. A shadowy figure standing just beyond the glow of the firelight. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the silhouette, frozen with fear. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer came, but the whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a haunting melody. My heart raced as I realized there was no escaping them, no matter where I turned. The cabin itself seemed to vibrate with the sound of those eerie voices. In a surge of determination, I crossed the room and flung open the cabin door, desperate to escape the suffocating presence within. The forest outside was silent, save for the distant howl of a lone wolf. But the whispers continued, echoing in my ears, as if they were a part of me now. I stumbled back into the cabin, my heart pounding in my chest. The fire had dwindled to embers, casting feeble shadows that danced on the walls. The whispers seemed to be coming from everywhere, filling the air like a suffocating fog. Terror gripped me as I realized the truth. The cabin itself was haunted. The walls held the secrets of past inhabitants, their voices trapped in the very fabric of the building. I was an intruder, an unwitting participant in their spectral chorus. I sank to the floor, my mind racing with a mix of fear and fascination. The whispers grew louder, their words a jumbled mix of joy, sorrow, and anger, a cacophony of emotions that transcended time and space. As the night wore on, I found myself listening, almost against my will, to the haunting tales that the cabin whispered, stories of love and loss, of laughter and tears, all woven together in a symphony of voices from the past. As dawn broke, the whispers began to fade, the cabin's ethereal inhabitants retreating back into the shadows. Exhausted and shaken, I stepped outside into the crisp morning air, leaving the cabin behind. To this day, I can't help but wonder if the whispers were a warning or an invitation. The cabin had shared its secrets with me, revealing the stories of those who had lived and loved within its walls. And while the experience was terrifying, there was also a strange comfort in knowing that the past is never truly forgotten, and that the echoes of history linger on, waiting to be heard by those who dare to listen. It was a quaint antique shop tucked away on a quiet street, a place that seemed to hold forgotten treasures from a bygone era. As I stepped inside, the bell above the door tinkled softly, and the musty scent of old books and aged wood greeted me. Rows of shelves displayed a variety of items, vintage trinkets, weathered paintings, and curious curiosities that hinted at stories untold. My eyes fell upon a corner of the shop where an assortment of music boxes rested. Each one had its own unique design, intricate carvings, and a charm that spoke of days long past. As I browsed, one particular music box caught my attention. It was ornate, with delicate flowers and intricate patterns adorning its surface. Its glass cover revealed a dancing ballerina, frozen in mid-spin. Intrigued, I gently wound the key and released the mechanism. A hauntingly beautiful melody filled the air, a melancholic tune that seemed to resonate with my very soul. The ballerina twirled gracefully, her porcelain features almost coming to life in the dim light of the shop. I couldn't resist its allure and decided to purchase the music box, envisioning it as a unique addition to my collection. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent item would soon unleash a series of events that would forever change my perception of reality. That night, I placed the music box on my bedside table, its delicate melody playing softly as I drifted off to sleep. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a soft rustling sound. My heart raced as I scanned the room, trying to identify the source of the disturbance. It was then that I noticed the music box. The ballerina was moving, her twirls accompanied by a faint, ethereal glow. Fear and curiosity battled within me as I watched the ballerina dance to the haunting melody. The room seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light, and a chill ran down my spine. I reached out to touch the music box, and the moment my fingers made contact, the room was filled with a surge of energy. Images flashed before my eyes, scenes from another time, another place. I saw a grand ballroom, elegantly dressed couples waltzing to the same melody that now emanated from the music box. The air was alive with laughter and chatter, and the ballerina danced in the center of it all, her movements captivating everyone who watched. But as the vision unfolded, a sense of tragedy hung in the air, a feeling of impending doom that I couldn't shake. I pulled my hand away from the music box, my heart pounding in my chest. The dancing ballerina returned to her stationary position, and the melody gradually faded. I was left in silence, the weight of the experience lingering in the room. Over the next few days, the music box continued to exert its eerie influence. It would start playing its melody at random times, often accompanied by strange occurrences: a flickering light, a sudden drop in temperature, objects moving on their own. It was as if the spirit of the ballerina had found a way to bridge the gap between the past and the present, seeking to communicate a message that remained just out of reach. Driven by a mix of curiosity and determination, I delved into the history of the music box, discovering that it had once belonged to a young woman named Isabella, a talented dancer who had tragically disappeared during a grand ball decades ago. Her mysterious vanishing had become the stuff of local legend, a tale whispered about in hushed tones. As I unraveled the threads of Isabella's story, the encounters with the music box grew more intense. The visions became clearer, revealing glimpses of Isabella's life and her connection to the melody. I felt a bond forming between us, one that transcended time and space. One fateful night, as the music box played its melody, I closed my eyes and embraced the visions that washed over me. I found myself in the grand ballroom, surrounded by the revelry of the past. Isabella stood before me, her eyes pleading, her movements filled with an urgency that couldn't be ignored. With a deep breath, I reached out to her, and our fingers brushed. In that moment, the barrier between our worlds shattered, and I became a part of the dance. Isabella's story unfolded before me, the jealousy, the betrayal, the tragic accident that had claimed her life. As the music reached its crescendo, I felt Isabella's hand slip from mine, and the world around me began to fade. I was back in my room, the music box still playing its haunting melody. But this time, there was a sense of closure, a feeling that Isabella's spirit had finally found peace. From that day on, the music box remained silent, its purpose fulfilled. Isabella's story had been told, her message received across the boundaries of time. As I looked at the now still ballerina, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the connection we had shared, a connection that had bridged the gap between the living and the departed, and had allowed a long-forgotten tale to be heard once more. It was an abandoned asylum that had long been forgotten by the world, a place where the mentally ill had once been confined, their suffering hidden away from the prying eyes of society. The building stood like a dark sentinel on the outskirts of town, its windows broken and its walls covered in layers of graffiti. Many believed it was cursed, haunted by the tormented souls who had once dwelled within its walls. As a group of curious friends, we decided to explore the asylum one fateful night, fueled by a mix of excitement and trepidation. Armed with flashlights, we entered through a broken window, the air heavy with the scent of decay and dampness. Our footsteps echoed in the silence, and a chill ran down my spine as I glanced at the peeling wallpaper and rusted beds that lined the corridors. The asylum seemed frozen in time, a snapshot of a bygone era when mental illness was misunderstood and mistreated. As we ventured deeper, our flashlights illuminated old patient records scattered across the floor, testaments to the lives that had been confined here, their stories lost to history. In one room, we discovered a small, windowless chamber, a solitary confinement cell. The walls were covered in scratches and desperate pleas, a haunting reminder of the suffering endured by those who had been locked away. The air grew colder, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. As we moved on, a faint whisper echoed through the corridors, almost imperceptible. I exchanged uneasy glances with my friends, but we brushed it off as our imagination playing tricks on us. Yet the whispers persisted, growing louder with each step we took. In a particularly decrepit wing, we found a set of heavy doors, chained shut and marked with a warning to keep out. But curiosity got the best of us, and we managed to pry the chains loose. What we found beyond those doors was a labyrinthine maze of hallways and rooms, each more decayed than the last. The whispers were now unmistakable, the voices a cacophony of fear, anger, and despair. We followed their eerie chorus deeper into the bowels of the asylum, our hearts racing and our nerves fraying. It was as if the very walls were alive, holding the memories and emotions of those who had suffered here. In a particularly large chamber, we stumbled upon a collection of decaying patient belongings, dolls, toys, and personal effects left behind by forgotten souls. As we examined them, the whispers grew louder, their urgency reaching a fever pitch. Suddenly the air grew suffocatingly cold and a sense of dread settled over us. The room seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy and the walls started to close in. Panic took hold as we realized that we were trapped, unable to find our way back to the entrance. And then, in the midst of the chaos, a figure materialized before us. A spectral silhouette that flickered in and out of existence. Its eyes were hollow voids, and its form seemed to defy the laws of reality. The whispers converged into a single chilling voice, a voice that echoed through our minds, recounting the horrors of the asylum, the suffering of its inhabitants, and the injustice that had been done. In a surge of terror, we fled the chamber, racing through the corridors as the entity pursued us. The asylum seemed to come alive, its walls shifting and changing, creating a labyrinth of confusion. But we were determined to escape, driven by fear and the unshakable knowledge that we were in the presence of something beyond our understanding. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we burst through the entrance, gasping for air as we stumbled back into the night. The asylum loomed behind us, its dark presence a stark reminder of the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. We never spoke of that night again, but the memory haunted us, lingering like an unsettling echo. The asylum remained a place of fear, a testament to the darkness that can hide within even the most ordinary-seeming buildings. And as we moved forward, we couldn't help but wonder if the whispers that had plagued us were the voices of the forgotten, reaching out from the depths of the past to remind us of the atrocities that had been committed in the name of care. The asylum stood as a chilling reminder that some secrets are best left buried, and that the echoes of the past can never truly be silenced. The sun had long set, casting a deep darkness over the woods that bordered our small town. It was a darkness that felt heavy and suffocating, as if the trees themselves held secrets that dared not be revealed. Still, curiosity got the best of us, and on that fateful night, we decided to venture into those woods, armed with nothing but flashlights and a sense of adventure. As we made our way through the underbrush, The sound of our footsteps seemed to be swallowed by the stillness around us. The air was thick with the earthy scent of damp leaves, and the shadows danced eerily with every flicker of our flashlights. We shared nervous laughter, trying to shake off the unease that had settled in our stomachs. Our destination was a long-abandoned cabin, a relic from a time when the woods were alive with the hustle and bustle of a logging community. The cabin was said to be haunted, its walls holding the whispers of long-lost souls who had met tragic ends. As we approached, the moon peeked through the dense canopy, casting an eerie silver glow upon the dilapidated structure. The door creaked open with a mournful groan, and we stepped inside. The interior was frozen in time, cobwebs clinging to the decaying furniture and dust covering every surface. The air was stale, suffused with a sense of melancholy that hung in the air like a heavy fog. A chill ran down my spine as I gazed at the faded photographs on the walls, faces from a distant past staring back at me. As we explored further, our flashlights revealed more unsettling details. A diary with pages filled with anguished scribbles, a child's doll with its eye missing, and an old phonograph that seemed to come to life of its own accord, emitting eerie melodies that echoed through the cabin. The cabin was a canvas painted with the remnants of sorrow, and each room seemed to tell a tale of despair. But it was the basement that held the most sinister secrets. The stairs led us down into darkness, the walls closing in around us. Our flashlights cast dancing shadows, revealing the outlines of ancient tools and discarded belongings. A feeling of dread settled over us, as if we were trespassing on something sacred, a darkness that had been carefully buried and forgotten. And then we heard it, the soft, plaintive sound of a child's laughter, distant yet unmistakable. Our hearts raced and we followed the sound, our flashlights trembling in our hands. The laughter led us deeper into the basement until we found ourselves in front of a locked door, a door that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. With a shaky breath, we pushed the door open, and what we saw within chilled us to the bone. Shadows danced on the walls, but there was no source of light. The air was thick with whispers, faint voices that seemed to be coming from all directions at once. Shapes moved in the darkness, shapes that defied explanation, flickering in and out of existence. Fear gripped us, and we fled the basement, stumbling back into the moonlit night. The woods seemed to close in around us, as if the Yaz were alive and watching. The whispers continued to echo in our minds, the laughter of a child mingling with voices that were both haunting and anguished. As we emerged from the woods, we exchanged a silent glance, a silent acknowledgement of the horrors we had witnessed. The cabin remained, a dark stain on the edge of town, a place forever haunted by the shadows of the past. And in the depths of those woods, the whispers lingered, a reminder that some secrets are best left undisturbed, a reminder that darkness can hide in the most unexpected places, waiting to reveal its chilling truths to those who dare to seek them out.